Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you very much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take a quick look here at Ethereum. And before we do, we usually look at Bitcoin, but I think you understand what's going on. Go ahead and reference my other Bitcoin video if you want insight on that. I just covered that. In fact, that's my daily driver. I also have a tremendous amount of requests for Ethereum now that I might actually make this a daily thing. Feel free to comment below. Let me know if you'd like that, of course, but we'll go ahead and keep an eye on it here in the immediate future, see what's going on. So before we get started, just want you to know, not a financial advisor. I love teaching people how to trade. My goal is to help you become a better, more self-sufficient trader. If you learn anything from these videos, feel free to comment below, let me know. I love to hear that, but also consider joining my community, where I actually have a trading community. We all learn and grow together. We talk openly about everything that's going on, as well as the fact that I share signals for every single trade that I take. Also rolling out with a trading academy month end, where I'm actually teaching you how to trade every step of the way so you can become a better trader. Again, been doing this for about 15 years now. I've learned a thing or two over the years. I think the first thing you can probably learn the most, or most fundamental, is patience. Try to be patient in this industry. When we see a downtrend occurring like the one right now, try not to buy every single dip. Dollar cost average whenever possible, but never put too much into one coin. I'll explain more about that later. Now, talking here about Ethereum, let's go ahead and start with a 1 week chart, because when we're looking at these dollar cost average scenarios where we're trying to anticipate where it's going to go, starting with the big picture helps a lot. I usually like to focus on the 1 day, but I think the 1 week's equally as important right now because there's some key level of supports that we've lost, and I need you to understand that. So looking at Ethereum here, we can see the 50-day simple moving average, which is traditionally a very strong support level. It was last week, held very strong, is now broken. So the likelihood of this, again, keep in mind, this 1 week candlestick hasn't closed yet, but the likelihood of it staying below that is fairly high, considering we're about halfway, twice as far down, so to speak, and the week is coming, to a close as well. We only got a couple more days left in this trading week. So that being said, the likelihood of 50-day SMA essentially being broken is very high. Same with this previous support level, about 2,900. I'm just going to speak in round numbers here for you. So 2,900 was a previous support, now considered a resistance. Bear that in mind, let that sink in. It's now considered a resistance, all right? If you look below, we have some key level Fibonacci retracement levels. Now, keep in mind, the price were to continue to decrease, which I think is fairly likely. We could see Ethereum down the price range of 2385. I'll just say round number 2400, as well as 2100 even. So 2400, 2100. Then, of course, our last saving grace before we drop off this cliff here would be 1706, round number 1700. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just letting you know that, generally speaking, this was a previous support level, a strong support in the middle of the summer when we had May 17th. Very rough week there so far for Bitcoin. And then same thing as well with June, the week of the 21st in June, and then July 19th before it took off. So those 3 weeks, in total, so to speak, in that 3-month period, were very hard and very difficult for Bitcoin. But when Bitcoin was decreasing and hitting its bottoms, Ethereum was hitting its bottom of 2,900, okay? So still, there's a decent amount of volume accumulation just above that level. In fact, if we take a look here at the volume profile and we kind of zoom in to this time frame, you'll see a strong amount of volume accumulation right around 1,700, as of, roughly just say February 1st as an estimate. Okay, so right as soon as Ethereum was testing about 2,000, I don't know if you were trading at that time or not. It kept testing it, testing, rejecting, and then eventually it broke free and went really hard, really fast up to 4,000. But that being said, the volume accumulation is what we want to focus on the most. And as you can see here, there's a lot of volume right here in this range, okay? So let's go ahead and put that actually over here. I would say that we have a decent, probably the most amount of volume accumulation in that time frame. And that's important to understand because of the fact that with more volume, we have more support. So if you're new to just say the channel or trading in general, volume is a very underweighted metric that a lot of people don't use. And I think it's important to understand. So it helps us understand, like certain buy walls and sell walls. We have a strong buy wall here. So if the price were to digress, to say continue to digress down into about 2,400 range, we'll probably see a strong amount of support right at that level. Furthermore, if we break that that support level, and it becomes a resistance, we'll likely see a channel between 1,700 to 2,400 as a rough estimate. Again, we'll bridge this gap when we get there. We don't need to speculate too far as what's going to happen in that range. But the bottom line is we have a lot of volume below the price action presently, which is a very good sign. So if the price were to come down, we should see a few bounces, so to speak, as it progresses down further. Obviously, this all depends on Bitcoin and what it's planning to do. If Bitcoin goes down to 29,000, which is potential now that we've broken that key level support at 40,500, then we're going to probably see something similar with Ethereum. Okay, so that's why we always cover Bitcoin first. So if you're going to be a professional in any industry, crypto specifically, you want to understand how Bitcoin's doing, and then you understand how the altcoins are working. Because whether or not you believe it or not, or you like to agree or disagree, Ethereum is an altcoin, and that's just kind of the way that it goes. Even though it's a very large coin, very strong, ecosystem, we still have a lot of things where it's very much reliant on Bitcoin, at least for the moment. Bear in mind also, Ethereum, when it breaks free from Bitcoin, again, it's not permanent, but when it does initially, that's usually a sign of an alt season. Because a lot of the volume, the market dominance comes away from Bitcoin, comes over to Ethereum, and then we should expect that to be the first major catalyst to identify when the alt season is going to occur. And we need to wait to find out when Bitcoin hits its bottom for that to happen, because it's creating a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt right now. Okay. Again, just some things to consider. Anyways, that's kind of where we're at there for the 1 week chart. Also note too, we're under 50 on the RSI. Same thing, same scenario, very similar structure here to Bitcoin. Because once again, Ethereum, even though it did very, very well for about a month, even though Bitcoin was underperforming and Ethereum essentially stayed the same, it's slowly digressed and effectively lost its bottom. Now it's aligning itself with Bitcoin, and it's important to understand that for the moment. Okay. So it is under 50 on the RSI, which is standard. Of course, we got a significant bearish divergence, right? So nothing great there in that sense. It just kind of implies we should expect the price to continue to digress. Looking at the RSI on the 1 day, just kind of jump right into that. Since we're already on the subject, we're under 50, obviously, that's a key level resistance. And that being said, that'll continue to change as we progress. But generally speaking, 50 on the RSI is probably very synonymous at this point with 2,900. So if the price were to come back up over 2,900, we'd probably see that 50 on the RSI tested, or maybe more importantly, even 3,300. So the bottom line here is that 2,900 should be a key level resistance right now. And I think the likelihood of the 1 day candlestick closing below that's fairly high. And if we do, we can consider Ethereum to have 2,900 as a major resistance level. Okay. That being said, we're close to 30 or just under 30 on the RSI. Traditionally speaking, we see a bounce back when we hit 30 on an RSI. So what could happen? We could see the price bounce up to 2,900 to get rejected and come back down. We could also see the price past 2,900, try to progress up to 3,300, and then lose its bottom and come back down. And when I say that, the likelihood of the price digressing lower is higher than it is to just break free and start coming upwards, right? Also bear in mind too, and this is just kind of neither here nor there, a lot of coins are exuding a similar behavior. We have a death cross potential here as well, where the actual 50 is working its way down to the 200, and that could effectively hold the price action down lower. Not to say it's going to just drop its bottom. It's kind of already done that in a sense, but keep in mind, there's a lot of range here between 2,900 and 2,400, where we could effectively just see, I wouldn't say a free fall per se, but there's lower volume in that range, and that concerns me because of the fact that there's no support in that sense, right? So just bear that in mind. There's some things you want to try to understand there in that sense. But generally speaking, RSI at 30 implies we're going to see a reversal or a turnaround. So I would not be surprised we see some kind of potential increase in the near future. Bitcoin is at a 30 as well on the RSI on the 1 day. So, be prepared for the price to get tested, the previous support of 40,500 on Bitcoin to get tested. And then to see that communication, that correlation on Ethereum. Okay, and that correlation could be 2,900, it could be 3,300. There's a lot of range here in which that's happening because unfortunately we've seen a lot of strong digression, so to speak, with Ethereum right now. That being said, looking at the MACD as well, we also see a bearish divergence. No surprise there. So honestly, there's nothing good that we see here at this point. The only silver lining you could say is that we have, again, the bounce off of 30 on the RSI. There's no guarantees it's not going to continue lower. Keep that in mind. Just note that traditionally speaking, you will see 30 being a strong support level, and the price usually recovers quite quickly from there. Again, what that means, it's hard to say. Going into a weekend here with less selling pressure perhaps from the whales, we could very well see Ethereum recover over the weekend. I would not be surprised by that. All right, last thing to just quickly touch on would be TD sequential. See where we're at a 6. In fact, I think Bitcoin's also at a 6 right now. In other words, we're basically just 6 days into this bearish divergence. So we could effectively see another 3 more days of bearish divergence, 3 to 7 more days before it's reached an exhaustive state. Okay, so by no means are the bears exhausted at this point. If that gives you any indication, that really helps us understand that yes, we have more room for potential downside. Okay. Just to quickly touch on the 4 hour, and we'll call it a day here. The 4 hour chart is also reflectant of low on the RSI, right? We see 30 on the RSI. So again, likelihood of it bouncing is fairly high. So just bear that in mind. Just know that it's going to be bouncing into a key level resistance of 2,900. So that's not always the best thing. That could hold the price action down lower. So I would say 2,900 should be probably a better case scenario for Ethereum in the immediate future. But what would probably happen is the price will slowly progress sideways. The RSI will start to calm down a little bit. Then we might actually see another leg down. Again, pending Bitcoin cannot pass 40,500 or just say 40,000 in general, that sell wall. Then we're going to have a scenario where Ethereum can effectively progress higher. But don't fool yourself. Ethereum is very much aligned with Bitcoin. So once again, watch my other Bitcoin video, or in general understand how Bitcoin's performing, and you can kind of help understand what's going to happen with Ethereum. Just also note too, Ethereum's a little more overextended than Bitcoin is in general too, because it held higher for longer, right? That being said, it could essentially fall faster because of Bitcoin's failure, so to speak, or Bitcoin's lack of upward progression. Okay, so again, Ethereum will do that, and the thing you gotta understand, and I talk to this with my admins all the time about how important it is to understand like the mentality of other traders, right? So what is the first thing another trader will do? Or just say, for example, what are you going to do when everything starts to sell off? Are you going to sell your least profitable coins, or are you going to sell your most profitable coins? I think you can already answer that, right? Your most profitable coins, which is why gaming is getting hit super hard right now. Same thing with Ethereum as well. It's getting hit harder than usual because it held up for a lot longer than it should have. Not to say it's a bad thing. It's a very good thing. It's a good testament how quality it is. But the fact that it held up for so long and we still have more profits to take from Ethereum than we would just say a Bitcoin or something else, you need to understand those are the coins that are going to sell off the hardest. So Ethereum is effectively selling off concurrent with Bitcoin, but also at probably a 1.5 to 2x in that sense, right? So please understand that 2,400 is very realistic for Ethereum. I'm not trying to concern you. I just don't think the bottom is in yet. And that's just the realistic fact here. So try to understand that. Anyways, I hope you kind of can conceptualize what I'm trying to communicate here. We have a good amount of support with volume at 1,700 upwards of 2,400. There's no doubt about that. But we do have a decent amount of low volume in between the price action presently and 2,400. So do not be surprised if the price continues to digress further, because obviously on the 1 week we lost the 50-day RSI, correction, the 50-day SMA, and then also we have the 50 and the 200 intersecting in a downward fashion here, which is of course considered to be a death cross. So that'll just keep pushing the price action down until the 50-day SMA can effectively average itself out. All right. So it may not be that aggressive of a sell-off, of course, and sometimes, believe it or not, the death cross doesn't have any impact at all, right? It's just that it's kind of signifying that we have this downward trend. The death cross really just helps us understand that it's a bearish type of divergence, right? And the likelihood of it continuing down lower is much higher because obviously the moving averages are pushing down. We've got these descending wedge patterns forming and these breakouts that are occurring to the downside. So ultimately not a great sign, because obviously you see here, we've had this little wedge pattern here, of course, that effectively broke to the downside. Bitcoin had the same exact scenario too, where it tried to break above in this one little candlestick and it couldn't break that pattern, got held down, and now we're right where we're at, okay? So that's the reason why these descending wedge patterns have a tendency to break into the downside versus the upside, because that's just a bearish continuation and it's essentially exuding lower highs and lower lows, right? So if you can identify that, that's probably the most important pattern to identify is the lower lower lows and lower highs. And so you see that on the 1 day chart, that's even more impactful than the 4 hour. Okay. Again, the more higher lows and lower highs, or whatever, whichever direction it's heading, the more you can identify that on a larger time frame, the better. In other words, the more impactful it is. So the 1 day chart kind of telling us we have this, Bitcoin's exuding the same behavior, then we need to respect that and understand that the likelihood of it turning around until we have significant amount of consolidation and extra volume at a specific price point, a key level support, for example, such as 2,400 per se as a first initial, then I think that we shouldn't fool ourselves in the fact that, being hopeful is one thing, but being realistic is another. We have to be realistic in the fact that the charts are telling us that we are screaming bearish divergence right now. Okay, not to say it's going to stick around forever. I do think Ethereum will be one of the first coins and the better coins to take off independent from Bitcoin in the near future. I would speculate February and March are going to be very strong months for a lot of coins, including gaming and DeFi. But right now, we are where we are. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt is controlling the market for the moment, and that has to dissipate a little bit longer and give us some stability, higher highs and higher lows from Bitcoin before we see any type of return. Okay, so just please understand that. So just be cautious going into the weekend here. We could get some false positives where the price comes up and effectively gives us, something like this over the weekend. If we see that, It's par for the course because RSI is very low. Everyone wants to buy because they feel it's a good value right now. Okay, but just keep in mind the people like you and I, the layman's out there buying these dips this weekend. We could very well get raked over the coals on Monday when the market opens and the price continues to digress from Bitcoin. Just be aware of that. All right, I hope you understand where I'm coming from here. I always have your best interests in mind. If you would like to become a community member, consider joining. Link in the description below. I would recommend February 1st because that's when my Trading Academy is active and we're going to go live with a new website platform for our members only. It's going to be an awesome experience. Looking forward to it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Well, thank you so much again for your time. See you soon.